Welcome to TYA Talk. I am David Strickel, creator of the TYA Mindset Practice. Today's video is going to be brief because I have a topic that is important, but I don't need to take a whole lot of time to talk about it. But I do want you to think about it after the broadcast today. Wherever you are in your TYA practice, whether you're just discovering TYA or you've been through boot camp and you're deep into it, self-accountability in any practice is a factor. I stop short of saying that it's important because one of the interesting things about TYA is that when you are deep into the practice and you are working the 4 pillars of the practice, you are seeing the results show up in your life without fail. I've seen this in years now of teaching this to people in boot camp and staying in touch with people long after graduation, years after graduation, that everybody slacks off. Everybody falls off the wagon of their practice. I think there's components of it once you have learned it, especially if you've been through boot camp, that you're going to do for the rest of your life, no matter what, just naturally. You're going to think about your vibration from time to time, if not a lot of the time. You're going to consider transgressors and what's popping up for you that might be a trigger for you. That's just natural. Once you have seen the power of employing those aspects of the practice, it's just natural that you're going to do that for the rest of your life. And I know that. I'm very confident about that. But certainly when you are actively thinking about your vibration almost all the time, and you are paying attention in your low periods, what's showing up for you, when you are noticing your triggers, when you are employing some sort of a practice that allows your natural source being, I don't say connection anymore because connection does make it sound like it's something external that connects. It's the core of who you are is source. And when you are doing things to quiet your ego, you're allowing that source being to be fully recognized or realized within you. Those are the pillars, and certainly with living with intention. Again, you're not going to learn this practice and not set some sort of intention, at least at certain times in your life or certain times throughout your day. So those are the pillars. Those are the things that we do to practice. But when we're really on it, life gets really, really good. And when life gets really, really good, a lot of times we think, well, gosh, I don't really need to do all that stuff anymore because now I've leveled up my vibration. Life has gotten so good. Everything's really working out for me. And what happens is we get a little lazy with the practice and we will see things unwanted start to show up again. We'll regress. That regression is a natural part of being a human being because the regression means that we are starting to see an uptick in unwanted things cross our paths. And according to source, there's nothing wrong with that. According to source, that is all part of being in a physical environment that's polarized because when we regress, when we allow things to sort of unravel for us, when we allow the manifestations that perhaps we were celebrating not long ago to start to really unravel, then that's part of the process. Because in that unraveling, we are seeing the flaws. We're seeing what else we can work on. We're seeing where the weaknesses are, however you want to label that stuff. What could I do better? What could I expand in this? So the falling off the wagon or the regression is actually part of the practice. That self-accountability, you can employ as much of that as you want. It's up to you. It's completely your choice if you want to be diligent in working those 4 pillars every day of your life. And if you are a more disciplined person, then you're probably more likely to do something like that. But if you're not terribly disciplined or you're moving through this vibrational flow where at times, I know I'm like this, at times I'm very disciplined about a workout routine, about an eating regiment, about doing things that I know that are good for me. I'm very disciplined about it. I'll go through a period where I am, and then I'll fall off and I'll go through a period where I'm just not. And then the health issues start to show up. The weight comes back on. I'm stiffening up because I'm not moving as much as I once was when I was more diligent about working out. Whatever it is, the results of your changed vibration will start to reveal themselves. And what we don't do in the practice, or we strive not to do in the practice, is go down that wormhole of beating ourselves up about that. Because whatever your version of regression is, whether you completely fall off the wagon and start back old habits or even addictions, or you fall off the wagon a little bit and just kind of fall down on your practice and you're not as great at it as you once were. It doesn't matter. We're all operating in a spectrum here. Source is not judging any of that as negative or shouldn't be. It's just part of the experience. And the deeper I have gotten into my practice and the more I've allowed source to flow in my life, the more I'm at peace with the spinouts. We honor and value this lower vibrational falling off the wagon, if you will, so much that we've given it a label. It's called a spin out. Spinning out is part of the practice. Falling off the wagon, stopping some of your routines that you know are serving your expansion of consciousness and your higher vibrational state of being, that is just part of it. So don't beat yourself up. That's the key. If you really want to improve your TYA practice moving forward, it's if there's any of that self-labeling of I shouldn't be experiencing this, I shouldn't be falling off the wagon, I know better than this, I shouldn't be. That shouldn't be creates all of our suffering. And that shouldn't be is shining a spotlight on exactly what you don't want in the labeling of should not be. So instead of labeling it as should not be, acknowledge that, hey, this is a spin out. This is part of the process. This is part of the process of me reintroducing myself and gaining newfound appreciation for where I was in my practice not long ago. That's part of it. It's built into it. It's baked into it. And I love that about the practice. That shows you what perfection the stream has delivered to us in those 4 pillars. And they have said only the 4 pillars. Everything else is just a tool that's a choice. But the 4 pillars comprise the practice. And if you work the 4 pillars of TYA, then you're going to have an expansive life journey. In fact, you're going to have an expansive life journey no matter what. But certainly more of the things that you want and less of the things that you do not, and greater appreciation of exactly what is when you work the 4 pillars. So when I get lax in working my 4 pillars, things start to show up and reveal themselves in my life that I'm taking note that, hey, this is showing up now. Guess why? Because I'm not as on it as I was before, but that's okay. Maybe I don't want to keep my foot on that accelerator all the time and be diligent about something. Maybe I do want to get lazy and spin out and just let it happen, because whatever is happening is expanding my consciousness, even if it's something that's considered unwanted in the matrix. The only labeling of positive or negative, good or bad, wanted and not, is all a product of ego, and it's all a product of the matrix. It's something that we've learned in the matrix where we're supposed to judge our spinning out. We're supposed to judge our picking up of old habits, our reigniting addictions, even certainly getting unhealthy, gaining weight, things like this. Those things are all labeled in the matrix as unwanted. However, Source is not labeling any of that as unwanted. Source is saying all of it is expansion of consciousness, all of it. There is no negative. There is no darkness. There is no evil. That's just what we are perceiving and what we have we've chosen to believe in our collective consciousness of humanity, which we call the matrix. So less judgment would be a good first step in this. Loving the process, even when you're spinning out in it. Learning to recognize your lower vibrational periods when you're feeling lethargic, when you're not feeling motivated, when you're not feeling terribly creative. You have disconnected from source. And it's okay to disconnect from source. We come to physical to have that experience. But of course, we know that we can return ourselves to source in physical. Not completely return ourselves to source, as far as our eternal state of being goes, that's death. But we can certainly return ourselves to source while still in physical, moving up our spiral into a higher vibrational territory. And we know where we are vibrationally simply by how we feel. If we feel good, if we feel creative, if we are excited about the future and loving what's happening in our now, we know that we are up our spiral. We are allowing more source to flow, because that source is the source of all creation. So all new thought, all new ideas, all creativity, all of that is happening up the spiral. The down the spiral stuff doesn't feel as good. You feel sluggish. You're not terribly motivated. You are not inspired. You are not necessarily coming up with solutions. You find yourself going down these negative thought pathways thinking of the worst that can happen sometimes, and you are reacting negatively to things that you're observing. When you are having that experience, you know that you're down your spiral. And you have two choices when you realize that you're down your spiral. You can judge yourself for being down there and say, this shouldn't be, I shouldn't be down here. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? I've got to get up. That's going to fuel more DTS. That's going to backfire on you every single time. Or the other side of that, where we are striving for in the TYA practice, is to acknowledge, oh, I'm just DTS. That's all this is. I'm just DTS right now. Sometimes when something pops in that sounds judgmental or catty even, I acknowledge, oh, that's just my ego. That's just my ego. It's okay. It's part of me. I love my ego. It's my humanity. And that's all that is. It's just that. My ego is perking up and becoming active in this moment. Obviously, I'm moving through a lower vibration right now, which is okay because I have more source separation going on, which allows my ego to really step forward. And my ego serves my expansion of consciousness and the discerning of preferences in a physical way or an earthly way, and delivering things both unwanted and not, because your ego is also the thing that motivates you toward physical preferences. Source is loving it all. Source is motivated to experience all of it because all of it expands your being. So that judgment, that discerning of preference, is not born of ego, of source. It's born of ego. So remember to always be keenly aware in your practice of where you are vibrationally. And when you aren't keenly aware and you find yourself down the spiral, DTS, you don't want to beat yourself up about that. You simply want to acknowledge that I'm DTS right now. It's okay to be DTS. I'm having a DTS moment. And I have no business trying to create down here, because anything I create down here is going to be a product of the lower vibrational state of being. And it's probably not something that I really want to experience. So what is my work? Acknowledge where I am, appreciate where I am, find 3 to 5 things to appreciate that are external, and allow that appreciation to reconnect me with source, because source is appreciation of all that is, all things. If you're ever wondering, where is source? I can't find the light. I feel so down right now that I can't get out of this hole that I'm in, or this funk that I'm in. Think about that little spark of appreciation that you can have for something sometime in your life. And sometimes you have to create it. Sometimes you have to sort of seek it out and create that appreciation. But that's okay, because as soon as you plug into authentic appreciation of something, even if it's something silly, like, puppy video or something that you can just sit and laugh at for a moment that distracts you from your DTS state of being, you've already started the journey back up your spiral. And remember that the trip up your spiral, the trip down your spiral is always about creating momentum. We naturally create momentum in our judgment of things as should not be. Boom, we're going down the spiral. Appreciation of things is, I love exactly what is because this is my creation, whether it's a preference or not, up your spiral. And it really is as simple as that. But it's just recognizing when you're experiencing a manifestation that is unwanted, that is a product of you being DTS. And the sooner you appreciate your creation, even if it's not a preference, the sooner you're going to start going back up your spiral and be back up into a territory where you are going to have solutions to every problem, even things that seem hopeless when you're DTS. You are going to be joyful. You are going to be appreciating all that is. You are going to be able to observe humanity in deep, authentic appreciation of exactly what it is and how it is. That is source. And it's within all of us all the time. It never leaves us. Sometimes we've just done a really good job of covering it up, a really good job of overshadowing source with our ego because we've overdeveloped it, because we live in a world where ego is absolutely overdeveloped at the moment. And we are working on collectively detuning that. And the more we detune that, the better life gets. And we're really seeing that in this practice. So the signs that you're DTS and the spin outs and all of those unwanted things are all part of the practice. You're not trying to keep them from ever happening. You're simply acknowledging that when they do happen, you know where you are, you know how to move back up, and you're acknowledging it and recognizing it and taking steps to move back up.
you are moving the needle on your default vibration higher and higher and higher on your spiral. I hope this helps. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you have additional questions, I always come back and answer those as well. Thanks a lot for watching.